think so. I think right now, continue to pile on more pressure on Chinese exports. It's not going to help the U.S. It's only going to push up inflation expectation. Already, if you look at the inflation expectation in the U.S., it's surged to close to 7%. It's one of the highest in the last 40 years. So I think people are fearful. I think I'm hearing stories about the U.S. consumers trying to stock up, especially on Asian goods in the last few weeks already. Right, so and also some of the retailers has been hiking prices. So I think and also if you look at last few weeks trading, right? So the U.S. Stock market suffered one of the biggest single-day loss in history, and also the U.S. Treasury bond yield has been rising, right? So it's very sort of unfriendly to the U.S. Fiscal budget in the sense that come June there's like close to more than $6 trillion worth of U.S. Treasury needs to be refinanced. So if you see a rising or even surging U.S. Treasury yield, it will make the refinancing situation very difficult for the U.S. fiscal department.
Hong, Shirley was referring to videos on TikTok, among other platforms, right? AI generated, of course, of an old President Trump sitting at a pre-industrial age sewing machine making, I don't know,
That's right.
Whatever, right? I think those have sort of been overtaken by other TikTok vids where you've got Chinese manufacturers, apparently, or of alleged luxury goods, trying to reach out and connect directly to U.S. consumers saying, look, you're being ripped off, right? Why not buy your Birkin bag from me, because it costs me $1,000 to make, but you're having to pay $10,000 for it, 10x in other words. What do those sorts of videos say to you?
Yeah, well, I think those meant to be jokes. I saw those videos as well, right? So some of the manufacturers trying to taking the Birkin bags apart and telling people how many dollars each part would cost them, and therefore they should buy directly from China. But we all know that Birkin bags, Hermes bags, are not made in China, right? So they're made in France, by hand with many well-trained workmen in a very little workshop. So I think this sort of video clips meant to take advantage of the situation, because some parts of China are renowned for making sort of fake goods, counterfeit goods, and therefore this is one of the opportunities for them to use the tariff situation to sell some of their counterfeit goods directly to the customer. So I think that meant to be a joke rather than serious.
So you're saying that these guys are counterfeiters then, How Hong?
I think so.
Is that right?
I think so.
And these are counterfeiters still trying to get around tariffs.
Yeah, well, there are like other stories about, anecdotal stories about, how people are getting around tariff by claiming their exports to be, relabeling their exports to be some other things. For example, the U.S., putting 100% tariff on Chinese clothing, and then they export and label the export goods as something else to bypass this tariff rate. So I think there are more than one way to sort of bypass that. In a sense that the tax code, the tariff code, is very complicated. I think it's due to the system restraint. It's very difficult for the U.S. custom to figure out which one to put on what tax rate.